Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Five Heart Podcast. Greg isn't here. Todd isn't here. I am Jon Damn Johnston, the site manager for Corn Nation, founder and guy that tries to act like he's in charge of shit. Joining me is Nate McHugh, some guy.
Yep, some guy. That's right.
How you doing, Nate?
Good. I just got back from a 8 and under baseball practice, and my kids are running around outside, and so now I get to talk to you. My wife's super enthused about that, by the way. So
Is she?
yes, she is, absolutely.
Oh my God. So are you coaching baseball?
Yeah, so here they do 2 years of T-ball, and all they do is you hit it and you run to first. The next person hits it, then you run to the next base. And then you do 3 years of coach pitch. And this is my son's second year. I mean, technically it should be his third, but with COVID, they didn't have a season at all. And so so we have 3 teams from the area, and they group it by age. So he's on the oldest team. And so I'm one of 5 coaches. So it's with my experience in coaching youth basketball, it's really nice to have help, I would say. I mean, a lot of help. So I'm not the head coach, and so it's more fun for me.
So do you find parents interject themselves a lot in baseball? Like you've got that one dad that's like, he knows. What are you voting for? That kind of thing.
I think that we have a good group of parents, actually. And I truthfully, I think that, because I've heard probably some of the other groups of parents are not quite so, I don't know. I would say, as cooperative. The worst thing we have is we currently have a mom who tells every kid to hit it out of the park. And we're just like, no, just make contact. It's like you're striking out every time. Don't try to hit it out of the park. And so that's how but other than that, it's totally fine.
I coached soccer for a decade, and it was one of the most rewarding things I ever did. I got very little pushback from parents. I think probably it was more frustrating dealing with some of the coaches that I had to deal with. Yeah, this is rec league. This was little kids soccer. I never did competitive because that was a really big time commitment that I didn't have. And honestly, by the time my kids were ready to play competitive soccer, they were like, you're not going to be the coach, Dad. So
that's okay.
It is. It's fine. I enjoyed coaching them. I, coached my 2 sons and my daughter, and it was really, I learned a lot about me. I learned how to sometimes actually learn how to keep my mouth shut in certain situations when you should.
I coach high school basketball. I've coached T-ball, coached my son's basketball, and now baseball. But my daughter she's now doing T-ball, and I'm not coaching. And they both do soccer, and I don't coach. I love sitting and just watching them play. And this last season in soccer, the opposing team had a coach who I thought was the most entertaining part of the game. And because he literally said everything that I think when I'm coaching, and he had zero filter, and it was hilarious, and I loved it. But he wasn't mean or anything. I mean, he was maybe somebody would think he's mean, but I don't think he was. He was just coaching. But he was just like, the kids would kick it to the opposing player, and he'd just throw his arms up and walk away, and and so I thought it was hilarious. But
Well, I learned in soccer, don't yell instructions on the field because the sport, it's not like other sports where there's a timeout. If you're yelling at them and they're trying to think about what you're telling them at the same time, trying to recognize what's going on in the field, they're not learning. So I never, if you're going to coach soccer, you coach when you're on the sideline and you got to, breaks, or you coach in practice. But when you put them on the field, the only time you're telling them something to do is, during a dead ball or something like that. That anyway. Wait, I was going to tell you what I've been doing the last like 2-3 nights.
Okay. Well, what is it? What the last that you've been doing the past 2 or 3 nights?
Yeah. I have been trying to figure out how much force it takes to put a dent in a human skull.
Okay. And why is that?
Because I have a dent in my head.
All right.
I woke up from my coma and I had a dent in my head. It's right here. It goes all the way across the top of my head. And it is a pronounced dent in my head. When I wrote my memoir, the Been Dead, Never Been to Europe book, my developmental editor told me, you have to remove all the references to the dent in your head out of this book. Because it would distract from the main story. She said, you can do something else with these, but you have to remove all of this. And I was like, okay, you know what? She's the editor and she was right. So I did. So now I'm writing a small book that I'm going to just give away. It's like a reader magnet. So people sign up for a mailing list, and it's called The Mystery of the Dent in My Head. But I'm trying to figure, I have a big dent in my head. Do you know how much force it required to put a dent in your head?
Probably not much, I wouldn't think. Maybe.
Not much. What? Then everybody would be walking around with dents in their head.
Oh, I mean, like, well, that's relative, right? You know, I would assume if you had a hammer, you wouldn't have to swing that hard. I mean, I don't know. Like my son just got a concussion 2 weeks ago.
Ooh.
During the T-ball game, which is actually, it's kind of ironic that during my daughter's game. I looked over and he was playing on the roof of a shed with his friends, and I walked over and I said, "Get down! I don't want you to get hurt." And he listened, and then they went and played tag in an old batting cage, and he tripped on a net and slammed his head on the concrete. Oh. So if I would have let him stay up on the roof, he probably never would have got a concussion. So I would suspect it would take more force than that to put a dent in someone's head.
Well, to crush a human skull would take 520 pounds of force.
Well, you say crush, but
yeah, but you can't find how to. I cannot find, with all the human knowledge and your fingertips on the internet, I can't find how much force it would take to dent somebody's head. So the problem is there's like movies and everything where some supervillain crushes some guy's head, and then everybody thinks that that's real life. And the honest to God truth is nobody could ever crush a guy's head in your hands. Oh,
yeah.
Right. Your skull is really strong for a reason. You know, it protects your life, but 520 pounds of pressure to crush a human skull. Do you know what else exerts 520 pounds of pressure?
I don't.
Now, neither do I. That's what I got to figure out next. So I can come up with some comparisons. We should move on, but that's what I've been doing, trying to figure out, when you're writing this other stuff, you come up with all sorts of weird shit, like how to kill people and get away with it. We'll just move on. Anyway, you are coaching baseball. And I think last week I saw a TikTok video where an official threw a dad out of a game because he was arguing balls and strikes at a Little League game. And I saw that and I thought, I don't want to say this is who we are, because this is who we've always been, but I've told the story about my daughter doing refereeing and how grown men would scream at her. But have you seen anything like that in person? I mean, have you experienced anything like that when it comes to officials?
I have to be careful. The school I coach for, high school, the administration has had to email the parents because we think that we're getting, and it's almost for sure, 50-50 calls aren't going our way. And it's probably because of our parents are part of that, and I just remember there was a game last year, the very beginning of the game, the parents complained about something, and it might have been a good reason. I don't remember, but the official turned around, said something to the parents, and didn't give us a call the rest of the game. And
my God, really?
yes. And there was a little bit of an altercation after the game. I wasn't around it, but so I've seen that. I actually did some officiating myself. Once was in college. I did intramurals when I was a freshman, and the starting quarterback, I called a technical on him, and he said, "All right, I'll meet you outside after this game." And this is a guy who has smashed people's windows with a baseball bat because he has a temper, And so that's one. But I did some officiating of a junior varsity girls high school basketball game, and the guy met me outside. And so
Really?
yeah. And
did he want to buy you a beer or invite you for tea and crumpets?
Yeah. He wanted us to. I don't know if he just wanted to say something. I don't know what it was, but he said something during he got kicked out. And anyways, I just think I don't know if you want to say anything else about it, but like, I think it's really bad where things are getting, because the officiating isn't getting better. And there's a lot of reasons why, because, it's probably said best by he's the head coach, or was the head coach of South Carolina, and I'm blanking on his name. He was asked about officiating in the Little League. He's one of those coaches that the press will ask him questions that have nothing to do with the sport, right? Or nothing to do with his team, kind of like Mike Leach. And they asked this guy, I feel bad, I can't think of his name, about youth officiating. And he starts out and he says, "When I watch my son play basketball," he goes, "I don't say boo," And he's also talking about the coaching. Then he goes on to say, he said, "How much do you think a 16-year-old kid, or maybe a 30-year-old guy, or a 40-year-old guy or girl or woman is making on a Sunday morning at a youth basketball game? How much do you think? And if you think that they're bad, it is very likely that it is some of the best that was available at that time."
Yeah.
And so there are times when, you should argue a call, maybe yell at. When I coach, I've been coaching for 8 years, and I don't complain to the refs at all. I'll talk to them. I'll say, "Hey, can you look at this? Look at this." Only twice have I ever yelled at an official, and it was the same official 2 years in a row at a JV tournament. It's the same guy, and so that was me coaching. And so, I know they're trying their best, and so that's why you just try to help them and say, "Hey, can you look at this hand check? Look at he's sliding under him," or whatever it is, and then you move on. But as a coach, you have to fight for your players too. But when it comes to parents, I'm gonna say, do you think you're helping? That's kind of my view is, do you think you screaming, like I said, there's times that you can complain, like no, he was fouled. But when it's constant, do you think you're actually helping your kids out? Because in my experience, that has not happened at all. And so then and it's happening at the high school level right now in Nebraska. A lot of officials are quitting. And a lot of them and it seems like it's the good guys that are quitting, because they're the ones that are doing it for fun. Like, because they obviously have a job, a profession of some type that allows them to do this on a Tuesday night, Monday, Friday, Saturday, or whatever. And they're doing it because they get a little extra cash, but also I think they enjoy it, And you're losing a lot of those guys. I know of some that officiate at Division I levels, and they come down. They still do a little high school because they think it's fun, and they're like, this isn't worth it anymore because they're not getting paid enough. And so then they're just like, I'm just going to do. I know one. He's like, I'm just going to do the Division I. I get paid a lot more, and I don't get berated like I do at a high school basketball game. And then then it goes back to, we were talking about youth sports, right? Where these kids are making, a lot of them are like, what, $20 a game?
Right.
And guess what? It's particularly these kids, they're probably terrified. I had a baseball game this year, and we had a high school kid. He's going to be a sophomore, and he was our the base umpire, and I coached him in high school. And I go up to him, I say, whether you're right or wrong, be like, if you're safe, do make sure, look confident no matter what, because when you have people that are kind of like, and they don't really say, that's when people get pissed off.
Yeah.
In my experience. And
plus there's people like me there that are waiting for somebody to show weakness so we can jump on them and destroy
100%.
their psyche.
Our first week of baseball, we had probably the best umpire. I'm like, we need to have more of these guys. He's been doing it for 30 years, and he was very like safe, and he was very direct. You go home, and it was very like, and no one says a word because they know that he's not going to care what you think, but it comes down to basketball, because I think kind of what brought that up with this whole topic is John Higgins, who is one of the top college basketball officials in the country, is in Omaha, and he was at an AAU basketball game, and his son, who's 15, officiated that game, and the other official, I guess, didn't show up or whatever. So John said, okay, I guess I got my whistle. And so John Higgins who, like I said, is one of the top college basketball officials, is now officiating a high school freshman AAU basketball game. And he said how he was treated was one of the worst things he's ever seen. He says, I referee D1 college basketball. I haven't heard anything like that. And this is an AAU game. And I guess the coach on the other team, it was his son was the worst of them all, I guess. And so
he walked up to him and said, you fucking suck, and flipped him off. That was in the article, right?
Yeah, I think it's just,
the behavior stuff. Let me ask you this. You coach for a high school, right? Have you had to have any games canceled because there weren't officials?
No.
Okay. Because I've heard of that more and more all over the nation. And it's funny. Last year at the Gopher game, that I got in trouble for that video after the game, that Gopher game, I went up and talked to some Big Ten officials before the game started. They were out there like I was. And I walked up and I wanted to ask them about the, officiating, and if they thought that the fact that so many high school refs are quitting is going to hurt them in like 10 years. And they were kind of like, no. But then one of them goes, man, those high school guys, they get treated like crap.
Yeah.
Which is funny, because when you're down on the field next to these refs in front of a, 40, 50,000 or 80,000, 90,000 in Nebraska, you hear the worst things possible yelled at those guys. And for him to say, boy, those high school officials get treated like crap. It's like, oh my God, I guess if they're worse than that, then it's pretty bad.
I think they need to double their pay. I think because sometimes they'll do the girls and the boys. It's the same officials sometimes. And I think they make $65 a night or something like that. I'm not for sure. And where I coach, we actually get really good officials, and our fans don't seem to understand that. But like one of the officials, he's one of the best. He's a Pac-12 football official, and he's done the Orange Bowl, and he's done. I mean, so coming to a little school like ours, he's not gonna be fazed by anything, right? And but at some point he's like, hey, this isn't worth it, right? And then you're gonna lose him. And the thing is, when they said they don't think that the officiating is going to be affected at the D1 level, I'm like, it has to be, because you got to start somewhere. Yeah. I mean,
you have to grow up doing it.
Yeah.
And you don't just walk on the field and start calling penalties or not calling penalties, or know what you're doing. And each one of the officials in a football team or a football game has a specific job to do. And they have to learn that job just like anybody else. It's like being a welder. The first weld you ever made was shit compared to probably anything you're doing now. So I don't know. It's what do you think the solution is?
I think you pay them more, and then you're going to get better candidates, and then you got to put the onus on these schools. That that sucks for the administration to have to, like, I don't know, you need to start kicking people out sooner.
What? The administration has to stand up for somebody? Will they do that? I don't want to get you in trouble. You don't have to answer that.
Yeah. We have good administration where I'm at, but
good job.
Yeah. So yeah. I think you got to increase the pool of candidates, and if you're going to make 130 a night, someone's more likely he's going to stick it out. It's going to be more worth it, right? To get your butt chewed. But we've had some really bad ones too in the past, so you want less of those guys. It's kind of it's kind of a perpetuating thing where you're going to lose officials because the fans are so bad, and sometimes the fans are so bad because the officials are bad, and so then. Then if the officiating continues to get worse, then you would expect that the fans are going to get worse, and it's just going to continue and continue. And
we're in the downward spiral.
Yeah, something like that.
We should move on to a happier topic.
Yeah. They're talking about this for how long? Yeah. Anyways,
do you have a happier topic?
I guess one thing I thought was interesting is I listened to the Tock podcast, and they had it's Travis Justice and Rob Zedeca.
Yeah.
Okay. And they had Nick Heinrich and Luke Reimer and Jared Lambrecht on there. And Jared Lambrecht's now I don't know what his title is. I don't know if he's the president of this new NIL collective.
Is that ABM?
Yeah, ABM, I think.
Yeah.
And they asked him like some kind of personal questions, about like how things are, or like the process and all that. And it sounds like Nebraska, they're trying to get, their goal is that all the way down to the second and third stringers are going to be making money somehow. And that's their goal. So, because what they don't want is, I'm guessing like this, like Casey Thompson coming in making 500,000, and this, I guess the first string running back not making anything, or making 1,500, and I'm sure that there will still be levels, but I thought that was interesting. It's not just going to be, like, and they're like educating these kids too. Like a lot of them aren't really like spending a lot of it. They're just like, they're learning about economics, taxes. And like, I think Luke Reimer said that he's putting a lot of it into a Roth IRA and, things like that. And they're like, he said, well, we get like everything paid for. We get room and board, food, we get all of our clothes for free pretty much. It's like, I really don't have to spend a lot of it.
Really?
So yeah. So it's like,
I thought they had to don't they have to advertise something?
Oh yes. Yeah. There's I think what I heard is if they go to Husker Auto. I don't know. I always remember Marlon Lucky drove around in a Cadillac. I think it had Husker Auto on the back. And I always thought that was Husker Auto saying, hey, 5-star running back, here's the vehicle.
We know nothing.
Yeah. I don't know if that's true or not, but, but I guess if they were to make an appearance at like Husker Auto, they send a selfie. They take a selfie and they send it, and then that's their verification. So no, they made it sound like it's not like a pay for play thing. I mean, you actually have to go do things, and sometimes they go to charities. Like they'll show up for a fundraiser at a charity, and then they'll get paid. And not by the charity, I would suspect, but from this pool of money.
Of money.
Yeah.
Did they say where it comes from?
Yeah, they said businesses, and they didn't want to say booster. But they said businesses, and because I think you can't say booster if I think that's correct. But
right, okay. If you said booster, and it'd be a booster shit. I don't know. God, all of this shit is. But
I think it just can't be an inducement to come here. The booster can't give money. So the O'Shawn Mathis, the booster can't say, I'll give you $500,000 if O'Shawn Mathis comes here. Now he's here. Now maybe then you can get that $500,000, I guess. I don't know.
So did Luke Reimer say how much he was getting paid?
Nope. They didn't ask that personal question. And they said that it's not really just even like a topic, like in the locker room, unless you're like talking to your roommates, I think that was my thing on the NIL is I think it's bad for college football, but, and this is where I come down it, but someone's getting paid, and no matter what, someone's going to get paid, and these kids might as well, be making something off of it. And so I'm kind of like, at least they're making their money, but I think it's probably bad for college football. But they did make one really good point. They said since only 1% of college football players make it to the NFL, this is like your short window to make anything off of your time in college football. And I think that makes a lot of sense to me. I think you got to do it, but I think in the end,
let me ask you this: whether you have inside knowledge or it's pure speculation, nobody will know because you're not going to admit either way. Nebraska had one of the best classes of the transfer portal. Do you think that's because of Neil deals, or do you think that's just because we're Nebraska and everybody loves us, or someone?
I think the funny thing is NIL might be our ticket out of the barren wasteland it is the past 7 years, right? It might be our ticket. I think NIL is a big reason why we got a lot of these transfers. And another reason is playing time, right? I mean, like when your team, Casey Thompson, Adrian Martinez left. He's like, oh, well, there's a starting job right there,
Right. O'Shawn Mathis.
And O'Shawn Mathis, I think that's an NIL thing. Because he could have gone to Texas and probably started for them too.
Stephon Wynn. The Alabama defense.
That's to me, that's a playing time thing.
Yeah.
I guess his dad spent time in prison, I think. And so their family was really, really big on postgraduate opportunities that the school provides. And it said, I think he has 2 years left, and he's been behind NFLers his entire career. And when we lose our top 3 D linemen, probably, it's like, hey, playing time, boom, right? And so, I don't know. That's kind of my thought.
Anything else going on you can think of? Basketball.
I don't know. Not really. I mean, you know what? Last time I was on here was like 2 weeks ago. Greg asked me a basketball question. My answer ended up being, yeah, I have no clue. Like,
What the
I said,
hell?
yeah, it was about their new transfer from
The guy from SMU?
yeah, I guess he had his name in the NFL draft process. I didn't realize that. He averaged like 10 points a game. But I guess someone thought, hey, maybe you should check it out. So maybe he'll be good, but I don't know. There's not really much else unless you. What's your view on NIL?
Well, I've given that, but I think it's a good deal. I think it's it's a little crazy right now, but I guess you go back to the past that I've said before. The NCAA had years to figure this out. They knew they saw the writing on the wall, and all they did was litigate. And I think they looked at Mark Emmert and said, well, there's a scapegoat for us. We can blame everything on, and they pay you millions of dollars a year, you hope, when you're a scapegoat. So they didn't care. So here we are with everything in, nuts all over the place with no guidelines. So the NCAA is completely to blame for all that. But I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in Nebraska. I think it's going to require coaches that are very good managers to keep their locker rooms intact. And I think I think that the idea that players get to own their own likeness and sell it, that seems like the American dream to me. Mm-hmm. That seems like America, the home of the brave, land of the free that I love and want to support. Who could be against this? Communists. That's who, Nate.
I do want to go back. I'm not what I think of when I say NIL is bad for college football. I guess I should correct myself. I think the pay for play is bad for college football. Casey Thompson or Trey Palmer going and doing a commercial is not bad for college basketball, getting paid that way. But, with this baseball pitcher, this North Carolina State, is he a catcher or led the country in home runs as a freshman? We were talking about today that he's transferring now, and he's probably going. They thought Florida State or whatever, and they think he's going to make $800,000 to maybe over $1 million. That's different to me. And like I said, I want these kids, and I want these kids to get theirs. But it doesn't mean that it's good for the sport. And maybe that's okay. And that's fine.
I would hope it'd straighten itself out a few years after, like, boosters or donors or businesses see that, when they're making these investments, they really are they getting anything out of it, or they just want to be involved, or they have like spare money laying around. I mean,
that's why I'm sorry. If I had Elon Musk money, I don't think I would donate a dime to get some 18-year-old kid to play in Nebraska. I just don't. That's just my view, I guess. I don't know. But there maybe people care more about the program than I do, So
if I had Elon Musk money, I certainly would.
You would?
Well, I mean, what else you gonna do?
Yeah.
Build rocket ships and fly to Mars?
Yeah. Or maybe I should pick somebody else, someone who's not the richest person in the world. Because, at that point, what's $1 million here, $1 million there? But I can't.
Well, my brother Jim in Texas, for many years, has sponsored kids. Well, they are kids, teenagers. In sprint car racing, dirt track racing. So, that's because he loved it and he loved working with the people, and he liked, helping out families and teams that, needed tires or needed an engine or something like that. And some kid that had some promise of possibly, racing and getting into NASCAR, which is their goal typically, because that's where the money is in that sport. There's only one other thing I can think of that's going on right now. And that is, there is a gob of recruiting coming up in June. And this is a big problem. It's a big problem because Corn Nation right now doesn't have any recruiting writers. So we have no idea what's going on, other than we've heard this is the biggest recruiting class ever, potential, blah. And we don't have anybody to recover it. So if you're listening to this and you want to be a recruiting writer for Corn Nation, send an email to me, Jon Johnston, site manager, Corn Nation. cornnation@gmail.com with, why you would want to do this. If you've done anything like this before, and I don't know, something like that, just let me know.
And if you send an email to John and you don't hear from him for 3 months, and then you respond, and then you don't hear from him for like 2 more months, just don't worry. He'll get to you at some point. I promise.
Is that what happened to you?
Yes. And then
I'm really terrible.
I sent you a writing. You asked for a writing sample, and I don't remember what I sent you, and then I didn't hear from you for like 2 months. I'm like, man, maybe that wasn't very good. Yeah. And so anyway, so if anyone, it's a good place to write, I'd say.
I had to do all the background check on you.
Yeah.
All right. Should we call it done? This is a long.
Has it been 45 minutes ish?
It's been close in there somewhere. I mean, it's not one of our marathon things that we did, I think, last week, which is good because I'm old and tired. I have to go figure out what can exert 520 pounds of pressure, pounds of force.
Hey, quick, what's your opinion of JJ Redick? You know who that is? JJ Redick?
I should, but it's not ringing a bell.
Okay, well, he played college basketball at Duke. Anyways, I hated his guts when he played because I hated Duke. And he was on the Bussin' with the Boys, which is Taylor Lewin. He played at Michigan. And then our own Will Compton. Yeah. And they had a pretty good discussion about their experiences mentally, being college athletes. And I think sometimes, like Taylor Lewin said, it's probably Luan or whatever. He said one time there's a big game, Michigan and some other team, and he didn't really care, and he barely paid attention even though he was playing because he was worried that his girlfriend was going to break up with him. So with that said, maybe we should give some of these players a pass because their girlfriend might be breaking up with them, and that's
wait a minute. They need to realize that I am living vicariously through them, and they need to be successful. Because if they're not letting me have the greatest adventure ever, then I'll be angry and yell at them. Yep. Maybe I should just go to a kids game and get that out of my system.
You know what? You would blend in perfectly with all the other parents.
I wouldn't be a parent though. I just go, "Hey, you suck!"
And then everyone would turn like, "Who's that guy?" And then they would stop paying attention to the game, and they just want to figure out who's this guy with long white hair.
I just got out of prison. Do you know how much force it takes to crush a human skull? I'm sure that'd go over well.
The police would probably get called. That's for sure.
I just looked up how to murder somebody and get away with it before I came here. Okay, we should go now before I bury any more things. How do we end this? Let's see.
This is the 5 Heart Podcast. 5 hearts are all you need, or something like that.
There you go. 5 hearts are all you need. Go Big Red. Thanks for listening. Join us next week for another round of this awesome, wonderful podcast, and maybe I'll have figured out how much force it takes to dent a human skull.